I see it. Well, good evening, everyone. It is July 1st at 6:30. This is North Clackamas School District's open session. I'm currently in the role of acting chair, and I will call this meeting to order. We'll begin with our native land acknowledgement. Director Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Ford. We acknowledge the land on which we sit and which we call the North Clackamas School District. It rests on the traditional and indigenous lands and village sites of the native peoples of the Kalapuya, Chinook, Molalla, and Clackamas. We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn, work, and be a community on this land. And we offer thanks to the original caretakers of this region. We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation that affected Indigenous and Native families, both past and present, and that will affect those in the future, and honor the resilience and the revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities. We pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations.
Thank you, Director Bauer. Next, we will do our flag salute. If everyone can turn their camera off, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Benaloga. Okay, we will begin with our selection of chair and vice chair. This is an action item, and we will be led by Dr. Shay James.
Great, thank you. Before we get started with that, I have two things that I'd like to bring forward. The first is I would like to introduce our new assistant superintendent who will be with us here at North Clackamas School District, Yvonne Dibley. And so happy to have her. And Yvonne, not sure if you would like to say, actually I should say Dr. Yvonne Dibley, if you'd like to say a few words about yourself.
Good evening, everyone. It is just a great pleasure to be here and come full circle and come back to North Clackamas. It's been a great first day, and I just look forward to a lot of wonderful collaboration in the year ahead. So thank you for having me this evening, and I'm honored to be here.
Great, thank you. And the second thing is I'd like to take a second. At our last board meeting, our now retired superintendent, Matt Utterback, really was able to say thank you to our board chair, Director Lieber Ford, who has served in that role for the year and has served with integrity, has been available to all of us, and really has just, I guess, epitomize what it has meant to be a leader in our school district. And so I know that he said thank you on behalf of all of our staff. And we were able to say that with the pandemic that has happened, we did not have the gift here that had arrived. And so I just want to take a second to honor Director Ford with the gift for serving as our board chair. And I would like to give that to her and say thank you for being such a wonderful leader for us.
I'll just say, first of all, I'm super surprised, and this is a super dope gift. So thank you guys. And just honored to serve the community. It's really important to me to service the community I live in. It's the rent that I pay for existing. So appreciate you guys and giving me the space to do it.
Thank you. And so with that, we will move forward with nominations for a board chair for the upcoming year. So I'm bringing forward the annual agenda item to select our North Clackamas School District board chair for the 2021-22 school year. And at our last board meeting on June 24th, During board reports, each director expressed if they had an interest in being the board chair or the vice chair for the upcoming school year. So at this time, per the OSBA policy guidance, I'd like to open up nominations for our board chair.
This is Director Stradel. I nominate Director Ford as chair of North Clackamas School District.
McVeigh, second.
Are there any other nominations at this time? Seeing none, I will close nominations for the chair, and we will proceed with a roll call vote for Director Libra Ford to serve as the board chair for North Clackamas School District for 21-22 school year. So with that, Director Bauer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Way, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Benaloga, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Perez, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Director Stradel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director McVeigh, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Director Ford, how do you vote?
Aye.
It is unanimous that our Director Lieber Ford will continue to serve us as the board chair for the North Clackamas School District for the year of 21-22. Congratulations and thank you. I'm going to turn it right over to you to move on to our vice chair nominations.
Thank you, Dr. James. Open the floor for nomination for our vice chair for school year 2021 to 2022.
This is Director Way. I nominate Director Bauer as vice chair for 2021-2022 school year.
Director Benaloga, second.
It's been properly moved and second. Do I have any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, I will close the nominations and now we'll move into a vote. Director Stradel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Perez?
Aye.
Director McVeigh?
Aye.
Director Benaloga?
Aye.
Director Way?
Aye.
Director Bauer?
Aye.
And I'm also aye. So unanimously, Director Bauer is our vice chair for 2021 and 2022. Thank you guys for your nominations and vote. Moving right along, the first thing that we have to vote on is our minutes from June 24th. I'll open the floor for a move.
Director Benaloga, I move board approval of the board meeting minutes from June 24th, 2021.
Director Stradel, second.
It's been properly moved by Director Benaloga and second by Director Stradel. Any discussion needed? Okay, seeing none. All opposed of approving June 24th, 2021 minutes, say aye. Okay. Minutes approved for June 24th, 2021. Next, we have consent agenda with 2 items, employment changes and policy revisions. I'll open the floor for a motion.
Bauer, I move to approve the consent agenda, which includes employment changes and policy, electronic communication systems, and flag displays and statutes.
Director
So-
Perez, second.
Salutes, I'm sorry, excuse me.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion needed on consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, all opposed, please say aye. Seeing none, consent agenda is approved. Next, we have community request. And I believe we have one, is that correct? Do I see one here?
Yes, in addition to the many written comments that you have received and been forwarded on to you, we had 3 sign up for public comment this evening, but only 1 has joined the meeting thus far. So we'll turn it over to Julie. Julie, you may go ahead and
So
unmute
hold
your
on
mic.
1 second. Before you start, Julie, I'm sorry, I'm required to read the statement. So you've heard it many times, so.
It's all right. Go ahead.
Bear
Like
with
Norm
me.
from Cheers.
Exactly. Anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or as a member of a group, may do so by following the district's guidelines for public comment. These printed guidelines are available at each board meeting. Any individual desiring to speak will submit their name, address, and the group, if any, that is represented, and a speaker should give their name and the group, if any, that is represented, and should limit their presentation to 3 minutes. Time may be extended at the discretion of the board chair. Speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs that are of concern to them. The board is restricted from hearing and will not consider complaints regarding any individual district staff member or any person connected with the district. The board vests in its chair or other presiding officer authority to terminate the remarks of any individual when those remarks do not adhere to the rules established in the policy. Do you have your red, green, whatever? No. Give you this. So Director Bauer will be your timer this evening. She has a green sheet of paper that will show you that you are within a minute of your time. Okay.
Okay. Great. I've had kids now in school for 16 consecutive years and 10 more left. I never thought I would see a year like this, last one, and I hope to never see a year like it again. And I'm sure you all feel exactly the same. As we look to the next school year, there are 2 things that loom very large. 1, how do we help get kids re-engaged in learning and help them recover academically, socially, and emotionally from a year filled with stress and trauma? 2, do mask and distancing still need to be required at schools? I'll start with the mask and distancing first. As you consider this for next year, which I know you'll do over the next month, please remember why children were forced to mask and distance in the first place. It was not because COVID was heavily impacting school-age children. It never has, and we've known this for a very long time. The fatality rate in COVID in kids is 0.001%. Kids were forced to wear masks and keep distance to protect adults. We didn't want children spreading the virus to vulnerable adults, and I understand that. So we shut their schools, canceled their activities, and made them wear masks and kept them away from people. Adults now have a vaccine to protect them. We no longer need to burden children with the responsibility of protecting adults. We can now begin to give kids their lives back fully. Any decision you make about mask and distancing or anything related to COVID needs to be backed by data and science that is specific to kids and COVID. Last year was all about COVID. This year needs to be about getting kids back. The data and science is very clear. COVID rarely touches kids. It does. I'm not denying that COVID exists. Kids do get COVID. Some kids get very sick. Some kids do die from COVID. I think what you need to look at is the rate at which it impacts kids. Does it merit the policies that you will make this year? And I would just encourage you to reflect on that as you make these policies. Lastly, how do we help kids re-engage in learning and in school? We make them feel comfortable at school. Every other institution is allowing kids to have their lives back. They can do sports without restrictions. They can play with friends, visit grandparents without restrictions. They can go to Target, restaurants, movies, almost anywhere without restrictions. Do we want school to be the only place that restricts their activities? Speaking personally, we had a daughter who went back to hybrid and would frequently come home and on the car ride home would ask me why her school thought she was so gross. That's kind of funny, but it's also very sad. Her school making her wear a mask, making her have an escort anytime she needed to use the bathroom, and monitoring her moves at recess made her feel like the school looked at her as some disease-riddled human. It was terrible and very confusing feeling for her. It soured her on school, and I don't want that to continue for her or for any other kids. Please look at the data specific to kids. Listen to parents as they tell you what their kids need. Think about the environment children will be trying to learn in. Make policies that correlate to the true risk COVID presents to kids. Make policies that release kids from being used to protect adults. Our kids deserve better than last year. We have the data and the resources to do better. Our kids deserve to have the same education uninterrupted as private school kids will have all year. Most private schools have announced already no mask, no distancing. So please do the work to look at the data and make policies that are relevant to how COVID affects kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Julie. And thank you for your consistent voice. I'm going to say that out loud. You've consistently shown up here.
Well, thank you for always listening.
Yeah.
I
And
don't like this format, by the way. I think Robert didn't ever want to talk to people. And I don't know why we follow his rules, but.
You're probably right.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate it. And just so everyone knows, for the public, we always have comment request sections in our meetings. So we encourage people to speak up. We're not here to agree with everyone. We are here to listen to everyone. All right, next on our agenda is our summer and fall 2021 Ready Schools, Safe Learners, Resiliency Framework Report. And that will be presented by Dr. James.
Great, thank you. So on June 25th, the Oregon Department of Education released an updated framework for school districts on how to move forward with the operation of schools for summer programming and fall operations beginning 2021. This framework is now titled Ready Schools, Safe Learners, Resiliency Framework. So tonight, Assistant Superintendent Cindy Detchen will join me in sharing what we know to date and next steps. In addition, we're looking for board feedback on recommendations presented regarding summer programming and next steps with fall guidance at the end of our presentation. And so at this time, I'll turn it over to Cindy Detchen to get us started.
Thank you. I think it's important to first start off with what we do know. There's a lot that we don't know yet. As Dr. James shared on Friday afternoon to be exact, the draft guidance, it's important to see that word draft. The draft guidance from ODE came out contrary to popular opinion, we do not get that guidance a week ahead of time and have all the time to review it. We get at the same time as everybody else. At the most, we get an email with a couple of bullet points of what we might expect to see, but we do not get the guidance prior. So we spent the last few days reviewing that guidance, parsing it out to various departments to review as well. The other thing that we know is that the governor's orders on COVID restrictions ended yesterday in the state of Oregon. And so that executive order has expired, doesn't necessarily align perfectly with ODE's guidance. And so that's what we're here wrestling with this evening and taking into consideration all of the pieces that we need to. There will be an additional guidance document, or an updated guidance document, I should say, from the Oregon Department of Ed on July 22nd. So that's going to give us a few weeks here to see how things go with our summer programming, how things go around the state, give us some time to do some planning. And then on the 22nd, when that document comes out, we'll be able to review what's changed, if there's any updates that we need to consider, which will be coming back to you. And we'll share a timeline a little bit later in this presentation. One of the things that caught us a little bit by surprise, we knew this guidance document was going to come out for opening up in the fall. However, it says that it may be used for summer programming. Well, our summer programming started this week. And so there's some things that we have to have some considerations that we'll be discussing with you this evening. The main difference between the prior Ready Schools, Safe Learners guidance document and the current document is that all of the restrictions and requirements that were mandated previously are now advisory, often referred to as highly recommended or highly advised throughout the document. There's considerable recommendation to collaborate, not just recommendation, but a requirement to collaborate with local health authorities. And for us, that's Clackamas County Health Department, which we have been in contact with, and the Oregon Occupational Safety and Health Administration, otherwise known as OSHA. And what people may not realize is that the Ready School Safe Learners and Clackamas County Health may guide us in a certain way for K-12 schools. We are also an employer, and we employ many, many people, and we still have to follow OSHA requirements that don't always align perfectly as well. So multiple guiding documents that we have to make sure we're taking into consideration. We do know that we will be returning to full-time in-person instruction for all students. And I should put there in a big and, we are offering our virtual online program as well. This fall, that's not new. We've been advertising that all spring and have multiple families signed up for that. For those that, for whatever reason, are not comfortable yet or are not able to return to full-time in-person instruction. But we will be offering full-time in-person instruction for all students who want that. Also in the guideline is a very strong focus on making sure districts prioritize equity when making all decisions, and really keeping in mind the safety, health, and wellness of our students at the center of those decisions. Also, a piece in there around cultivating connection, real strong efforts in making sure we spend some time letting students and staff get to know each other again and being in person, and some of those relational activities that will be very strong for us in the fall. The requirements do include having an operational plan. We don't have that template yet. That will be provided either along with the July 22nd document or just prior to that. We've been told it'll be similar to the current blueprint plans that we have now, but many less pages, many less portions of that document to complete. So we will be completing that and submitting that to the state by the end of the summer. We know we need to focus on recovery services for students experiencing disabilities. There's several bullet points under this one to make sure that all students who are on individual education plans continue to receive those services. It's reevaluated, looking for any gaps in learning or other needs that have popped up during COVID. We will maintain communicable disease management plans. That is not new. That is a pre-COVID requirement when things like measles or other flu outbreaks have occurred. That is not new to us or our nurses who manage that. And we will go back to requiring all Division 22. That's the portion in the state language around all the things schools have to do. All of those things that we have to check the box, turn in these reports. It includes things like meeting certain instructional time, adopting curriculum, going through state assessments, other reporting requirements. So during COVID, some of those requirements were suspended or paused. Those are all back on the table now. So we will be going back to meeting those requirements, in addition to the same enrollment and attendance procedures that were required by the state prior to COVID. And then, of course, I know something that's near and dear to our community, our staff, and certainly this board is making sure that we are planning and providing for those mental health supports as students come back into our buildings. We thought it might interest you and be of concern so that we know just what were we talking about? How did COVID outbreaks happen in our schools? What were those numbers like? So this just is just a quick table to give you a snapshot. It includes employees and students isolated and quarantined after we came back in the spring. Making sure you understand quarantine is when I've been exposed to COVID, I've been around it, I've been known with somebody who's got COVID-19, but I'm not experiencing any symptoms, I haven't tested positive, but the recommendation and requirements, frankly, from county and health providers has been that you quarantine for 14 days. Isolation, when we've asked to been isolated, it's when you've either tested positive for COVID, or you have enough COVID symptoms that you really need to make sure that you're isolating and not exposing yourself to other people. So there's some totals at the bottom, but you can see that there was a very large uptick that first week there in May, and then it started to go down a little bit, a few little blips here. And I will point out that the 6/18, we were really getting down to very minuscule numbers in single digits. That 31 around students quarantine had to do with a couple of athletic teams. And so when you've got one exposure and you've got 15 students on a team. That's why you get those large numbers. But wanted to share some of that data. We'll continue to track this during the summer. We have our same procedures in place and can provide you some data around our summer school numbers when we come back in August. I think we're back to Dr. James.
Thank you. So reviewing our summer programming numbers, we currently have over 300 students signed up for high school summer session, over 250 middle school students participating in enrichment courses, and so excited to have over 1,300 elementary students participating in a variety of exciting summer opportunities, with well over 200 staff from the educational side and the operations side making all facets of these programs run. In addition, we will likely have more students participating with our partner programs. However, at this time, we don't yet have those full numbers. And these numbers may grow slightly as I'm sharing approximate enrollment, as some of our courses have not yet begun. So as we move forward and continue to operate an open summer programs, we are committed to maintaining cohorting and 3-foot distancing to the extent possible, maintaining ventilation practices and cleaning protocols. We will continue to visually screen students and staff for illnesses and general safety practices to the extent possible. The main shift that we wish to change for our summer school is moving to masks as a voluntary option, while highly recommending masks for those who are not vaccinated. We will, however, require masks on the bus to and from summer programming, as we are not able to maintain the 3-foot distancing on our buses. And in addition, some of our partner programs may still require masks to participate in their summer courses. We're just not sure at this point. So we believe we can effectively make this shift with summer programming, as we know that summer is voluntary. It has less students. We're able to maintain distance with the 3-foot fairly well. A great deal of the activities take place outside in the open air, and we're also going to be able to cohort, as that's what we planned, and use our cleaning protocols without the stipulation of passing times, in which we were dealing with in hybrid in the fall. This is different than what we can plan for in the fall as we make a full return to in-person learning. So when I say that, what does that mean? It means that we need to consider how to move forward, as we likely will not be able to cohort. We'll need to eat lunch at school. We'll provide music programs. We'll have full buses, and we will need to operate with less than 3 feet distances in many places, and some other things that we're thinking about, which ultimately means we need time to plan. So we are committed to creating a plan between now and July 22nd, in which the final framework for the Oregon Department of Education will be released at that time. After we create the draft plan, we will put it out to students, staff, family, and community for feedback through Thought Exchange, which would begin on Monday, July 26th, and go through July 30th. So it'll be a little bit of a quicker turnaround time, but we're working within the constraints of the time that we have. After the Thought Exchange is completed on July 30th, we will then review the feedback and make appropriate changes to our plans, and bring a final presentation forward to our board meeting on August 12th. So currently that's the tentative timeline that we're looking at for fall information. We realize these changes are going to cause some families to be concerned about sending their children back to school in the fall. And because of that, I wanted to share that we do have plenty of space remaining in our virtual online program for those that need and would like that opportunity. Currently, we have a total of 586 students approved, and we have another 88 students on our wait list who will be approved, for a total of 674. Currently, right now, our threshold in virtual online programs is 990, and we can make adjustments to that if need be as well. So you can see we have plenty of room there. So this graphic shows the demographic breakdown of our students that are currently registered for our virtual online programs by race, which gives you an idea of our families who are currently seeking other options. And in addition to this, we have approximately 108 students currently registered who have a documented disability. So I just want to reiterate and to express for families who are not yet comfortable with returning to school full-time or with whatever decisions are made in the plan, that we would encourage them to look into our virtual online program, which still has plenty of space, and we will keep that open for the summer. So as we close for questions, we welcome and appreciate hearing feedback from our board directors on the recommendations presented regarding summer programming and next steps with fall guidance, in addition to answering any questions that you may have. So thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Good information. I'll just go around robin, see if you guys have comments. Director Perez. Director McVeigh.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. James. I appreciate the presentation, and it looks like we have a good roadmap to work with until the final guidance are. As far as summer school, I'm glad that the recommendation is no mask, since out in the public, kids can now go to theaters and gyms and at capacity and play ball without those masks. But they do, if they get on a bus, need to put a mask on, whether it be TriMet or a train. So I can get behind putting a mask on because it's not dissimilar to what they would need to do on any other bus situation. So, and we'll just see how the summer plays out, and the voice of the community and the truth survey that comes out, and look forward to that. Thank you.
Director Benaloga.
Yes, thank you, Dr. James, for the presentation, and of course, the rest of the executive team that put that together. Appreciate the information. I did have just a couple of questions. Are we providing on-site testing still at this point?
Can you say more on-site testing for?
Are we, well, a lot of school districts are doing on-site COVID testing. Are we providing that at this point?
Got it. Thank you. Currently, we have only been doing on-site testing for our athletic program. We have not been doing it in the regular summer program. And so we would need to look at what that would be like for fall, but currently with our athletics.
All right, thank you. And then
Director Benaloga, I just want to say that part of the state guidance with that is that it is focused on community groups, not necessarily schools doing it.
Okay.
That is some of the guidance that the state has given.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then how late can families choose the virtual online program? Is there a closing date for that, or is it going to be sometime in late August, or what is the time frame?
We have not set a closing time. At this point, we would allow students to register right up to the time in which school would start currently.
All right, great, thank you.
Director Schradel.
I'm not sure if you said Director Shadle. I just heard Director and it dropped.
Oh, yeah, Director Schradel. Yep.
I picked up on it because of the pause by everybody else. I'd like to, of course, see the, I hate asking for data like this, but how many students have gotten severely sick, and how many have had a horrible outcome in Oregon? We had public testimony that basically said students can die. I take that statement plus all the other research to say the public can have an opinion that they don't want to have masks, but if we can prevent one death, I'm going to speak up.
So am I hearing a request for that data? Is that what you want?
Yeah, I mean, if we have people who are saying in public testimony that yes, children can get it, and that a mask is a burden to themselves, well, I'm pretty sure it's a burden to the family who might get it and have their child die. So I'd like to have the data that shows that no children are going to die, and then I can be okay with saying we don't have to do masks.
I guess we can talk, Dr. James, about how we can follow up with that request for Director Stradle. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do a little bit of research with our risk manager and see if he's able to get numbers like that across our state for how many students have been sick in Oregon with COVID and how many students have lost their life with that. So I'm not sure what we'll be able to find, but we will certainly work to see what we can do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Way.
Thank you, Chair Ford. Really great presentation, Director James and Cindy. I know that this is a lot of information for us to continue to digest and process through, and great to hear that we are also going to have additional surveys for our parents and community to fill out as we reopen. I guess my only comment is that I am concerned about the various variants, Delta variants of the COVID that we're sort of starting to see right now. And that, I think we're still not 100% out of the woods when it comes to this infectious disease. So I would like us to, again, continue to think about the public health and just the science of, again, the possible variants that might be out there and how it's impacting children. And then secondly, I want us to think about vaccinations and including, again, that sort of public health education that we already know is already happening for adults. And now that we know students can get the vaccination, I know that we've had some of our school-based health centers run vaccine clinics, which I think are helpful to, really get us back to normal. And again, it's not mandatory, optional, but highly encouraged to get vaccines in our community. So I just wanted to make that comment that I think there's still a lot, given the fall and given the variants that are coming out, that we still quite do not know the impact of what that will cause on our children. But if we have vaccine education, again, and some of those clinics that are continue to be readily available in our communities and working with the Clackamas County Health Department, then that will, at least for me, ease my mind a little bit more in that there is something that families can do to protect themselves from COVID in the fall. So I guess more comments, but I guess my question is, how are we including, again, a vaccination plan as we're thinking about fall reopening? And will that be a piece of that as well?
We will include that in the information as we're planning and bringing that information back to you.
Great, thank you.
We do continue to share any local vaccination opportunities with our parents through our flyer program through PeachJar. So we do advertise those pretty regularly.
Thanks.
Director Perez.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Dr. James, for an excellent presentation. I do have one question going back to, I'm going to pull it up here, on the summer programming. We have a safer community thanks to many who have received the vaccination. It makes it harder for the virus to spread. But my question is, I just want to be sure, if we have someone who displays signs and symptoms of COVID during the summer program or is diagnosed with COVID, that we have we have the protocols in place and we have the staffing to address that. Just want to clarify that, Dr. James.
Yes, we do. And actually, Cindy might want to give you a little bit of additional information with our COVID team that's in place working on that.
Sure. We established that protocol in the spring when we brought all of our students back. We've got it dialed in now, and we're carrying that same protocol through the summer. So every site that has a summer school program has a person designated to receive that information, put it into our electronic system. Immediately, it's assigned to one of our 2 summer registered nurses that will take it through the protocol. And that includes the contact tracing. If they were on a bus, it includes getting the bus rosters, contacting all of those folks by phone call. It's done pretty quickly now. And then that student, if they're sick at school, are isolated immediately. We have isolation designated rooms at each site, so they're immediately separated, or a staff member, I should say, as well. And then we will follow that contact tracing all the way through, and they'll be told when they can come back to the site. And it depends on the exposure date and a lot of things, but it's the same protocol that our Clackamas County Health Department uses anywhere else in the county. But schools are kind of left up to their own protocols. And that's what's been working for us. And that's what generated the data that you saw earlier in the presentation.
Okay, thank you. And one last question for the summer programming as well. For our programming in the summer, will we have a counselor available and or social worker with these programs for students and their families?
Yeah, we have one of our summer program administrators, Natalie Whistler, with us tonight. And so, Natalie, can you share a little bit about the support services that are available to students within the program?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be able to continue some of our current school year partnerships, such as with Western Psychological. And I'm actually working with them right now to finalize an agreement for some additional supplemental supports on site at our elementary and middle school sites. And so we're excited to be able to have a very robust program that includes social emotional learning small group supports, as well as connections to individual therapy for students.
Thank you.
Director Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Ford. A couple of questions I have, you already answered, so thank you. I'll just comment that, this process, we got another change. What's new, I guess, 4 or 5 days ago. But congrats to you, Dr. James, that this is your first day and you and your staff are ready. You have a plan. I'm impressed. And, the guidance is going to change again. So I look at it as it's evolving and we need to hear from more groups in our community and our staff, and the thought exchange is great. So any other ways, well, people can still, we need to hear from as many voices as we can. So thank you for the report and your staff.
Yeah, I definitely would like to echo that. Congratulations, Dr. James, on your first day. And this is a big subject for first day. So thank you for the presentation. I also would like to say that I recognize and appreciate that you guys are literally building the ship as we move through the ocean, and there's a current that goes in several directions every second, but we still seem to keep moving. So I appreciate that too. Couple comments and I have one question. My first comment is to the community. As we see with this structure, there will be a thought exchange where parents can provide their comments through July 30th. I highly encourage you to give that link to one new parent, someone maybe you've never talked to before. Make sure that they know that they can fill it out so we get as much feedback as we possibly can. It only helps us understand the full spectrum. In addition to that, I want to say thank you to the team for the ethnicity and demographics chart for our virtual programming. I think it is very important that we look at the percentages, considering the overall percentages in the district. There are some tall telling stories in that pie chart that I think we all need to be very aware of. I would like to dig deeper into what it may mean with some of the disproportionate percentages in the online schooling. And then last but not least, I'd like to comment that we often say that vaccination and mask is a choice. I'd like to make sure that we're all aware to add for some. There are many that it is not a choice for. And I don't want to forget those many ever when we're making decisions to wear masks, to not wear masks. For some, it is not a choice. So I hope that we can continue to be respectful in that. So the only question I have is for us to talk in depth, maybe in our confers, and get more information about the demographics, and maybe do a thought exchange specifically for our online families that have made that choice, to see why. And I would like to understand why we have those disproportionate percentages for certain ethnic groups. So that is my ask.
We can absolutely do that. And we have been having those same conversations. So thank you.
Chair Ford, can I ask a question, a follow-up comment or question? In that data, I know that my two neighbors that are choosing the virtual online program are doing that for their job. You know, they want to continue, and they're not freshmen, they're, you know, the upper grades. And so I'm just wondering if we could get that data. By which grade are they choosing the virtual online program? Is it mostly juniors and seniors, or is it mostly? Thanks.
We will add that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Director McVeigh. Okay, thanks for that. Moving along to our next agenda item, which is technology Chromebook lease purchase agreement. Mr. Brown.
Good evening.
Well, good
Hear
evening.
me okay?
I can't see you. I can hear you though. You're the voice of the, yeah, there you go.
All right. It looks
You
like
like
I'm with you,
It
but
does.
it's all virtual.
Yeah.
I am super pleased to be here tonight and once again to talk about Chromebooks. But first of all, just good evening, Board Chair Ms. Ford, Vice Chair Ms. Bauer, and distinguished board members, and of course, Superintendent Dr. James. We have done this a few times, but we are building, as you know, a sustainability plan and taking advantage of the federal programs, and this is a new one. It's called ECF, Emergency Connectivity Fund, which is part of the Federal Communications Commission, and then under the E-rate program. So asking for board approval to utilize the board adopted competitive cooperative purchasing rules to purchase up to 9,700 additional Chromebooks for students in grades 6 through 12, costing up to, but not to exceed, $4 million. And I'm going to skip a step where it says asking for consideration and go straight to the budget impact. The budget impact is zero. This is 100% funded. We applied for this probably 2.5 months ago when it first became eligible. And now as we get closer, eligibility opened up. And now we want, with your approval, to move forward to make it official, put it in writing electronically to submit our request for these devices. The caveat is that these devices must go home. So that's why these are for 6th through 12th graders. And we will right size this as we know our numbers, ADM, because it has to kind of match. It can't be devices that are sitting in inventory. They have to really be used by all students. So I'm very excited about the purchasing, the opportunity, and this will provide the support, the sustainability, the reliability to support student learning, instructional strategies, and learning outcomes. And this will be the second step in a total of almost 17,000 devices since I've joined the district. And so with all of that said, this concludes my agenda item, and I am seeking your consideration for approval. Do you have any questions?
Director McVeigh?
Mr. Brown, this is great news. Although you said it's no budget impact, I'm assuming you're saying no negative budget impact, because I think we did have in the budget built in for these devices on NCSD expense. Is that correct?
So there are two options for this program. One is called BEAR, where we do like E-rate, we pay for it and wait for reimbursement. I am not recommending we do that. I am recommending that we seek approval from the FCC and E-rate, which is about a 15-day business day. So we'll put in our request, we'll wait 15 business days. They give us a thumbs up. We go to the vendor with our PO. And then when we receive the invoice, once the equipment has been delivered, we give the invoice to the vendor. And then back to the, we receive it from the vendor, then we go back to the FCC and they pay the vendor. That's the recommended path that I am choosing for us at this point, unless something changes. This is a new program. Things are changing every couple of days. That is still an option. So I want us to move as fast as we can, but accurately make the right sized purchase. And be at the front of the list. There's about $7.7 billion available to all the school districts.
Sure. I didn't state my question very well. I don't think the path is, I'm fine with whatever path you guys want to make. But we already had budgeted a device for every student or a replacement. So this is actual savings then, since this is new, right? Since
Correct.
The adopted budget.
It is savings, but we're fast tracking. We weren't planning to replace these devices for 2 years.
Okay, got it.
We're ahead of schedule. Yes.
Got it.
This
Perfect.
allows
Thank
us
you.
to fast track. And then the devices that we are collecting back from families and parents now, these will become our loaner devices. So when we receive them, which will be later this school year, we will have new devices for all of our students.
Wow. Very cool.
Which I think also, a while back when you first presented our one-to-one model, Director Schradel, you had mentioned a concern about replacement, right? Because we were doing this lump sum thing, and then, what happens when they all break down? So it sounds like this puts us in front of that, correct? Is that what you're saying?
It does. It
That's
puts
what
us
I'm
ahead of it,
saying.
and then the money that we won't spend for the next couple of years will allow us to bank it because we've been planning it. That's a great question. So leadership met last week to talk about this, and we're putting a plan in place. We're working very closely with Dr. James, with Cindy, with Dr. Dibley, and of course, more importantly, with Gay Ellen, Finance. And we will be working annually on this plan and fine tuning because sustainability is huge and critical. But the good thing, and there's a separate document that in here, we had a lump sum, but we won't, unless we're flush, which we don't know what that looks like 4 or 5 years from now, we'll be doing annual lease payments rather than lump sum like we've done in the past, which makes it palatable and affordable. And operationalizing it really is what we're trying to do, build this in. We might own the house, but we know we're always going to have to pay taxes, pay a light bill. So we're going to operationalize this.
Okay, I will open the floor for a motion.
Motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation, board approval to utilize the board adopted competitive cooperative purchasing rules to purchase approximately 9,700 additional Chromebooks for students in grades 6 through 12, costing up to $4 million.
Benaloka, second.
And properly moved by Director Perez, second by Director Benaloga. Any additional discussion needed? Awesome. I just want to make sure that I say again, really, really great work. The one-to-one model is a wonderful thing for our district. In addition, now 9,000, which is really half of our student population, to inject that into our infrastructure is just a really great move. and great move on the government on fixing E-rate equations, because when they started that, they sucked. So this is good. Good movement. Good movement. Thank you guys. Let's go ahead and vote. All against the motion to approve this purchase, please say aye. Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, guys. Okay, next on our agenda is we're moving into governance session. So this is more of a discussion, correct? That's where we are. And I'm leading most of this discussion. So we do this annually. We go over these things so that we're all aware. One, we can't make any assumptions that we're all going to be here because life changes. And we have these documents for a reason to help us have good governance. So the first thing that I'd like us to review on our agenda is the declaration of actual, potential, or perceived conflict of interest. And I'll do a round robin. I'll start with Director Schradel.
Yes, I don't have any actual conflict of interest. I have a perceived conflict of interest. I write software for education institutions, and I've already committed that if North Clackamas were to use my software, I would not charge North Clackamas.
Thank you. Director Benaloga.
Yes, thank you, Chair Ford. Yes, I have a potential conflict of interest as I am the academic director for an exchange program that I oversee and place exchange students within the district for my full-time employment.
Thank you, Director Benaloga. Director Perez.
Thank you, Chair Ford. At this time, I have no actual potential perceived conflict of interest.
Thank you, Director Way.
I don't have an actual conflict of interest, but perceived conflict of interest is that I also serve on the TriMet board of directors, and there might be times where if we're discussing any formal contracts or partnerships or anything of that nature, that could be a perceived conflict.
Excellent. Director McVeigh.
I don't have any actual conflicts of interest, maybe perceived. My wife is a volunteer with the North Clackamas Education Foundation. I think she's a treasurer. We vote on that as the board to fund that, and that account is also with my employer, but I'm not on it or have anything to do with it. And it's not a conflict of interest, but it could be perceived. I'm also been confirmed by the Senate to be on the Fair Dismissals Appeals Board for the state of Oregon for teacher dismissals. I don't know anything about that yet, as it hasn't really started, but that I will assume that Dr. James will tell me if I'm not allowed to be part of any discussion if it would ever get to that point, or Chair Ford would.
Director Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Ford. At this time, I have no actual potential or perceived conflicts of interest.
And then for myself, I have no actual conflicts of interest. I have, I believe, what people perceive as a conflict of interest, which is I am the Chief Operating Officer of Self-Enhancement Incorporated, which is a community-based organization that does a lot of community work, and it crosses over counties here and there, but rarely in North Clackamas, but you never know. And that's it. All right, moving right along. The next thing on our agenda is protocols and operating agreements. You have the document inside of your packet. This is a time where we discuss, when we go over our operating agreement and make sure that we're all aware of what it is. I first just want to give everybody a moment just to make sure you review it. I know you had this for a couple of days, but I will give you a moment just to review it in the moment. Okay, at this time, do we have any comments that we'd like to make about our protocols and operating agreements? Director Schrader, I can't see you, but do you have anything?
I do not have anything.
Okay. Are we all good?
I just,
Oh, Director Way, I'm sorry.
yes, just a quick comment. I'm just really, again, wanted to highlight our leadership transition and change to Dr. James being our wonderful new superintendent. Clearly, she's not new to the district, but just really want to highlight the language that is set forth, particularly in number 3 and number 4 under our board of directors operating agreements, and that this is really a collaborative relationship between the board and the superintendent. And again, just really wanted to emphasize that piece, and just really looking forward to Dr. James' leadership and all of us working in collaboration and in coordination with her and the administration. So thank you so much. Just wanted to make that comment.
Director Bauer?
I just wanted to comment too that these are good reminders and they're always so timely. And even tonight, I just wanted to highlight, as we were looking at our plan back to school, under 11P, it says refrain from taking a position on an agenda item or issue until all relevant information is presented. And that's why there's still information coming in, and we need to be patient and give grace and patience to those people that are putting all this information together as it's changing. So there's some great reminders. One other thing that we usually discussed at this time was the process where we will be getting lots of emails, and very often there's questions about procedures or details, and those are answered by our superintendent. So you don't hear from each one of us particularly, but we do read your emails, and our superintendent is always, they're the ones that are doing the day-to-day operations. So it's just a reminder. These are great reminders.
Anyone else? Excellent. I just want to remind everyone that these protocols and operating agreements are great. They're practices for us. They're best practices for us to live by, but they do not supersede the laws that we have to abide by and govern within. And so to piggyback what Director Bauer was saying, there are laws around communicating on subjects, so we can't supersede those. As humans, we want to make certain decisions, but in this seat, we gotta do certain things certain ways. So, like Robert's rules. Okay, are we good to move on from that? Okay, great. Next thing on the agenda item, and just a reminder for the public, these are not action items, so we're not voting on anything. They're just public conversation, because part of that law is we can't do this behind closed doors without you seeing us do it. So happy watching. Board liaison. Next on our agenda is board liaison committee assignments. Inside of your packet, there's a list of all the things that you were assigned to. I'm going to say that if you want to switch up anything, can you send me that information? I will gather it all together and then put it down. But in this moment, if there's something pertinent that you just want to say publicly about committee assignments or wanting to switch or whatever, let's do that, because you guys put a lot of work in this stuff. I think behind closed doors, folks don't realize that it's not just about us sitting here tonight. It's all the work in between that makes this night in existence between us and, of course, the permanent staff. But I will say that this group right here gets the same paycheck, $0. So I thank you for your commitment to your committees. So if you have anything you'd like to say about it, please do so. Just let me know.
Thank you, Chair Ford. It's always a little, I do feel a little nervous every time there's a new topic or a new thing that I want to share or introduce. But I know that several years ago with the past superintendent, there were conversations that I had around a potential youth council or a youth, voice advisory committee, and whether or not that is become sort of a formally adopted board committee open to discussion. But I just wanted to raise that because I know that with COVID, we just lost some traction there, and then with some other additional administrative changes. But I wanted to bring it up again because I think including some type of youth leadership and youth voice into our board policies or practices is important to highlight. And I know that many of our young people, now that we're returning back to normal, would want to give their advice or give their input on certain things. So just again, wanted to offer that up to see if we can to see if that is a possibility to, again, within sort of this committee framework. So just wanted to put that out there. And
so I love that ball toss, and I'm going to catch it as a chair. I can create committees as see fit. So in this moment, I'm creating a youth council committee for youth voice. I'm also looking for board members to sit on it. We are limited to 3. So if you're interested in sitting on that, it will stand for this school year. And all students that are interested in joining, please do. We'll make sure that we work with superintendent to get the information out. But if you're interested on sitting on that committee, let me know now or in email.
Chair Ford, thank you. No, thank you so much. That's wonderful. I would be able to sit on that committee if other board members agree.
So I see Director Way, Director Bauer, and Director Benaloga. Okay. Of course, everyone will get the information from these committees. So even though those board members might be sitting on it, it doesn't mean other board members can ask maybe to rotate in and out. If you want to, participate one week or something like that, we can always make it work. We all get a piece of the flavor of hearing our youth and what they are looking to see. Director Bauer.
Just one other comment to follow up on the committees. And I want to thank the fellow board members that stepped up on these committees. And some of them were a lot of work, the bargaining, policy, and it just took hours. So thank you for your service.
Okay, any other committee comments? Like I said, my ask is that you look at this and see where you want to shift. Some things are no longer in cycle this year, like the bargaining, right? We're not in a bargaining year, correct?
We will be for OSEA. So yes,
Okay.
so that's important for anyone to know as they look at that committee.
Okay.
Yep.
The NCEA would not be this year. Okay, got it. Cool. So send me what you want. We'll get you on there and, get you back to work. All right, next on our agenda is our future board meetings. There's also a list in here that is giving you a schedule of that. Do we have any questions or concerns about the schedule? Got it. Okay, so this is about what type of meeting. So first, let me say that I want to ask this question for clarity because we talked about putting new equipment in here. So when is that scheduled to be up and running? Next week. So next week, we should have equipment that allows us to have a more efficient hybrid meeting where we're not in earphones. It's kind of more realistic, I guess. Okay. So then after that, the question becomes, how are we all okay with just having hybrid meetings, or what do we want to do? Let's talk about our meetings in the future. What are they going to look like? Are we letting people in? Are we not letting people in? When are we doing that? How are we doing that? What's our feel? Director Bauer.
I'll start off. Currently, Oregon school boards, and it's in our presentation notes, have the following guidance so I'm just going to read it so that the public is aware that fully vaccinated staff, school board members, community are not required to wear face coverings or physically distance inside at school board meetings if children are not present, only when vaccination status is checked by the school. Most children in Oregon are not yet vaccinated. So my question is, are we aware that might change? We don't know. Any word from OSBA that you're aware of, Chair?
I'm unaware of anything from OSBA. I think that the only thing I'm aware of is the reopening of Oregon yesterday. And I think everybody is scrambling to figure out what it means to reopen, as we scrambled to figure out what it meant to be closed. So I will be honest with you. I think that we need to wait for some more guidance. I'm a little concerned on what it all will come to. We can make a decision here on what we would hope it looks like, but then be open to the fact that there may be something that we can't supersede. And that, to me, we can't supersede a state requirement. We shouldn't supersede a state requirement. But I think we can talk about what we hope it looks like. Like I said, I think logistically, there's some things happening in this room that allow for us to at least exist in this room without the computers being in front of us. So we know that is coming. That is coming very quickly, according to Sandra, in a week. So I think we should talk about what we hope the future meetings look like and work towards that hope, with the understanding that guidance might change some of it.
I'll go again. I'll start it off. My hope is that we can have the public back. And I want to be safe, but I do want to see those faces. I want to hear their interaction. I think there are some people that do want to attend, and we had people that were regular attendees. They are doing it online, but that's my hope. So, but that we can do it safely for children too, or that we get the guidance we need to do that.
I echo Mitzi's comments. I would like public if we can, and when we can.
Just to piggyback off of that, I also agree. I think having public come back is great and ideal. I know that we had some discussions in previous board meetings about at least doing still some type of video recording with some additional cameras that are getting installed. So that's sort of a tech thing that I think we had a discussion on, given available resources. But I agree to the public and the in-person. And again, if we can, again, for folks who just still want to check out our board meetings on YouTube, I think we should still have that option available.
Director Benaloga, I would also just echo the same sentiments. I think it would be, I think it's an important piece that we have the public back in the meetings, but I also like the availability and the option to stream for those families and those community members that either can't or are not able to make it in. So I think it's so important that we have many different ways for people to attend our meetings, and I look forward to having people back in person.
Director Perez here. Yeah, I think it'd be great. I echo what the rest of my fellow board members as far as getting to see everybody back in here. That would be wonderful. And but I also understand what Chair Ford said about just getting a little more guidance. It seems that there's been a lot of fluctuations, and so being patient and just kind of seeing what further guidance comes out of here this month. But again, at the end of the day, it'd be great to see our community in here, our village. Thank you.
And I would summarize by saying I agree. I think that it's important for us to move towards, in-person meetings. I also think that one of the beauties of this year has been the opportunity to see how technology can enhance engagement. So I don't want to lose that element of the meetings, allowing folks to still be home with their families, but maybe listen in. I think that that's a key feature, and I'm looking forward to the new equipment that will be coming in the room to allow us to do that seamlessly without a whole lot of hiccups. It'll feel more natural for everyone. And so I'm looking forward to that equipment. In addition to that, I think that when us opening up, I'm hoping that the public and everyone involved in the meetings can take the sentiments of care that has been coming through the messages and coming through the phone calls as they walk in the building, care in speech and care in listening. Because I think a lot of times when things get difficult in discussion and you're in person, it's still important that we care for each other and remember that we're all humans. We all have an opportunity to speak up, but you should speak with care. And so I look forward to that gathering and listening to everyone. And I look forward to the continuing passion and care that's come from this year. So let's move forth in that hope. And if guidance does not supersede our hope, then we should be fine. So our next meeting is what day? August 12th. Superintendent James, myself, and our chairs meeting, let's talk about how that would look, especially if the equipment is up. We might do a test run, maybe with a couple folks from the community to see how it works out. But yeah, let's figure out in our chairs meeting how we can make that work, and then we'll keep the board up to date on the next steps. Cool. Director Schrader, I didn't hear anything from you on that subject. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
Everybody else made comments that echo what I would have said. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on our list is mandatory child abuse reporter training. And this is actually not presented by me. This is presented by Superintendent James.
Great, thank you. Some of you will remember Senate Bill 415 was passed in 2019, which required that all board members are mandatory reporters. So each year we require our staff to go through online training regarding mandatory reporting. And as a board member, you're not required to go through the online training, but we have included it in your packet for review, which will give you information on the forms of abuse and the reporting, and would definitely be worth taking a quick reminder and reviewing that again. And I know that some of you do this currently in the jobs that you are already in, but some of you don't. And so I just want to make sure that you know that our staff and myself stand ready to support you with any discussion that you may need around this or any support that you may need with reporting. And we're happy to do so. So thank you.
Excellent. I'll definitely echo that. This is a requirement. This is one of those governance requirements that we now have. Any comments or discussion anyone want to have on this topic?
Director Schradel.
Okay.
I think 2 years ago, I did evaluate all the online training that we do have. And so I went through them, and it's very valuable. So anybody who because this is now a law, it would be wise to go through the training.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I will also just piggyback on what Director Schrader was saying. It is required in my job that I currently have. It's important to remind yourself of the stuff. It's not just important to understand what it means to be a mandatory reporter, but when you review the topics and why it's necessary, it just grounds you on your responsibilities. So I encourage everyone to do as much as they can to be as knowledgeable as they can. Other than that, thank you, Superintendent James. Happy first day. It is now 7:54
Chair Ford.
and meeting. I'm sorry, Director Schrader.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt there just before you close the meeting. I just want to do a reminder that this is typically the meeting where board members are asked to change their passwords on the for the mail server. So that doesn't have to be done tonight, but it would be wise at the next meeting that we have that done.
See, there's that technology mind. You're so right. I will make sure that I do mine. Please do that if you can as quickly as possible. Derek's like, yes. Appreciates that. Thank you. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. It is 7:57. I think that this has been an incredible year of learning. If nothing else, we are an education system. And so I think that learning is exactly what we were supposed to be doing.